Hello, and welcome to another Ask Me Anything. I did a recording like this for last month's AMA, and it seemed to work pretty well, so I'm going to do it again this month. Though admittedly, I am recording it kind of late, as in late in the month, not late at night. I took a little bit of time getting around to this one, but here we are anyway. So, the first question comes from Aquasun, which is, what's the most pretentious, high art, literary, or avant-garde work you've enjoyed? This one was actually kind of hard to think of because I don't tend to read or watch or interact with many pieces that are like that. But after thinking about it for a while, I think the one that applies the most would be Catcher in the Rye. Read that in high school, of course. I actually really liked it, in spite of the fact that I was really, really annoyed with the main character. Like, he was so whiny and just but that was actually part of why I really liked it, is that it made me experience like a real feeling for that character. Like, even though it was anger and annoyance, it made me feel that, if that makes any sense, which was kind of fascinating to me. And the like run-on sentence sort of type of writing was something I'd never seen before. So I did read it years ago, obviously, so maybe my opinion have changed over the years, but as far as looking back on it, I think it was a really interesting read, especially in terms of like how it was written. Strictly avant-garde, as in like what is going on here. Tulip, the video game. I've never played it, but I've watched it, and it's so weird. It is so weird, but also so fascinating. Just so fascinating. uh, I definitely recommend looking up like Stephen Amell playing that game. It's a shorter series, but my god, it sticks with you. So the next question, also from Aquasun, is there anything growing up that you thought everyone did to only realize later that it was uncommon? Another tough one to remember, especially because, it is like a sort of realization thing, as opposed to just knowing that something you're doing is different. But I did come up with, I think, a couple of answers, which would be when I tie my shoes and put them on, like ever since I was a kid, I never sat down or leaned down because I didn't I didn't want to do that. I was just like, oh, that takes so much more time. So I always stood on one leg and brought my foot closer to me. And I kind of realized that it was uncommon to be good at that when I had a job where we had like morning exercises, and one of them was balancing on one foot, pulling your leg behind you, and like everybody was using the wall, but I was like, I wasn't. And everybody was like, whoa, how are you doing that? And I'm like, I do this every morning when I put on my shoes. Like, another one would be that I eat fast. Another job story where we were doing something away from the 20-minute drive away from the main work area, and our coworker driving was like, "Ooh, we should like go eat something." So we stopped and got some fast food, and but we were kind of worried that would not be kosher, so we were like, "Okay, so you guys, everybody has to eat it quickly before we get back to work." And I did that, like they said to eat quickly, so I ate quickly, and so someone looked at me and they're like, "Oh, did you not get any food?" And I was like, "No, I ate it." And everybody's just like, what? They were so shocked that I'd eaten it so quickly, but I don't know, I just did. Like, it didn't seem weird to me, so I guess that's another answer. So another question, again from Akusan, is if you weren't an artist, what do you think you would have ended up studying, working in? This is my answer is almost a little bit cheating because I did technically study in it. I'm just not doing it currently. But coding. I really love coding a lot. To me, it's like a puzzle solving or like a detective thing almost, where you're coding and you keep testing as you go, and if something goes wrong, then you look at the line that you just made and you're like, okay, anything being interacted with in this line is the culprit. So you got your list of suspects almost, and you check each one of them out, and it's like, it was you, and they're like, I'm sorry, my variable wasn't accurate enough and that messed it up. And like, I don't know, it's really fun to me, and I'm a little rusty right now, honestly. And I kind of wish I had some time to get back into it, but things come and go as they go. But maybe plans for some of that in the future. Last question from Aquasun is, are there any interests, hobbies, activities you've never gotten into but you're curious about? And for this one, I would say singing and cooking are probably the first ones to come to mind. I've never done any professional singing or whatever, but I really love to sing. So I feel like actually getting confident that, I'm doing this right would be fun. And then cooking, just so that I can be better at cooking. I could do basic stuff, but I'd love to be able to create kind of whatever I wanted. And I guess sports might fit into this too. I'm not entirely sure. But if they do, then I'd add basketball and badminton. I think are really fun sports. I also love swimming, but I don't know, that doesn't feel as much of like a hobby, if that makes any sense. But I think especially badminton, like the feeling of hitting, I don't even remember what it's called right now. The birdie. It's so satisfying. Okay, so next up we're moving on to questions from Hannah Page. And the first one is there a video game you desperately wanted to draw comics for, but just couldn't think of any good ideas for? There are honestly so many games that I enjoyed a lot, but I couldn't think of anything for them. And that actually is like, I find it's a thing that happens, that if I'm enjoying a game or like series so much, I often get caught up in enjoying it, and then I don't have quote unquote time to think of ideas. Like there's not a pause where my immersion is broken, where I can go, oh, that was kind of weird, and write down an idea. I'm just enjoying it, like I'm along for the ride, right? There's also stuff with really good reputations that like I'd love to explore the worlds of, but maybe don't feel like I could do them justice, or like other people might think I won't do them justice, and I don't want to deal with that. So, if I had to say a series that I know of, it's not a video game, but a webcomic, Sleepless Domain. I really like that comic, but I just never seem to get ideas for it. It makes me sad because I want to draw more stuff from that series. It's really good. I really enjoy it. What is your favorite Pokemon? Hannah asks as well. They say theirs is Sandshrew. My gut says Rowlet, Sylveon, or Chandelure off the top of my head, which, because I was thinking of like looking at the list of Pokemon, but I'm like, you know what? If I have favorites, they're gonna be ones I remember. But also, I have a growing appreciation for the Garchomp line too. Like, I'm just they're really starting to grow on me. Hannah also asks, I'm not sure how to word this, but do you have a game show book that everyone else seems to dislike but you personally like? And the closest thing I was able to think of was FMA, the 2003 version. And I'm unsure because I haven't watched it for years, so nostalgia might be giving me a bias. I have watched like videos or something about it sort of recently that kind of pointed out things I forgot about, and I'm like, yeah, that was kind of weird. So I don't know. Also, I'm not sure about everyone disliking it so much as half and half, like and dislike, versus also brotherhood existing and being more faithful to the manga. That kind of creates a weird dichotomy there. Hannah also asks, cake or pie? Cake, definitely. I do like pie, but mostly like pumpkin pie, or like those chocolate pies or something. I'm actually not really a big fan of fruit pies recently. Like, or rather in the past. I haven't had one in a while, so maybe my tastes have changed, but I definitely really like cake. My favorite would probably be either vanilla or marble cake, just because I like sort of simpler tastes. And last question from Hannah is, if you could pick any dead franchise and give it one more sequel, what would it be? And my first gut response as soon as I read this question, this is mean, it's not actually dead, so to speak, but I read the question, I'm like, Paper Mario. So then I'm like, oh shoot, that's not actually, that doesn't actually, they have one. But yeah. As far as my actual quote unquote answer, and I'm not really sure if it counts as dead, but I think seeing a Banjo 3 would be super cool. I actually I haven't played the Kazooie and Tooie myself that much, but I do have a very strong appreciation for that series and the creativity that they put into those platformers. So it'd be cool to see a 3, if only just to like see it and maybe actually experience it finally. So now we're on to questions from Gaku. They ask, if you could visit any game's world, where would you go? And when I read this, I'm like, I'm going to assume this question comes along with you can survive in the world or like at least fight monsters, because otherwise that shortens the list a lot, if not. My first instinctive answer is things like Xenoblade 1 and 2, like the Worlds of the Titans, and 1,000-Year Doors world. I haven't seen it or played it in years too, but I also thought of Eternal Sonata. I feel like it wasn't the greatest world thinking further on it, like in terms of what's happening in it. But I do remember it being like really pretty and like vast, so like interesting in that way. Though also honestly, most game worlds fascinate me. So as long as I could navigate them safely, I'd love to see pretty much any of them, except for horror games. That would. I'm a weenie and I love horror games, but I would not willingly go to a horror game area. Oh, another question from Gaku here that's going to be a little bit of a longer one is, do you have any artists that inspire you? And I have a lot, perhaps too many even. I'm going to do my best to put links in the description here to anyone that I mention. But the big 3, I would say, are Kylie Henke, Chikudo, and Sayanella. They just are really big influences to my style, my way of doing things, even just like attitude, like just upbeat people. Chikudo has a webcomic going, Clockwork, it's great. Kylie Henke does a lot of mixed media, Sayanella streams, just very big influences to me. I'm probably going to give a little bit more of a specific spotlight, though, to art mutuals, just because of the big 3 that I just mentioned. You can really easily search them up, but my other art mutuals, not as much. So there is Michelle, or Afraid Symphony. They're an art friend from years back. We have a mutual love for Symphonia, and their yearly colloid art is always so beautiful. Like, they paint all these different scenarios and like AUs and stuff, and it's always such a treat to see what they have in store. And again, all these links are going to be like their Twitters and stuff. They're going to be in the description. Lulu, who is an epithet erased artist. The texture in her pieces is always stunning. Like, I have to constantly make sure that, like, if I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see one of her pieces, that I keep going so that I don't just stick there for like 5 minutes, because I can't pull my eyes away. It's just so amazing how she does lace and frills, especially. And it's really, her art is very soft and inviting. Like, just like, mwah. There is also Trichianthia, one of my patrons, actually. She makes so many wonderful character designs that are always a blast to like draw myself as well. I was like looking forward to seeing what she thinks of next. Like Gajinkas, I think is how you say it. OCs from so many different worlds. It's so great to see all those different outfits brought to life. And last but certainly not least is Mika Koyama. She's an artist from the Proton John community who makes a lot of different designs for his Rosa John persona. I always love seeing what she creates, and her fashion sense is very close to mine, so I always appreciate that. Not to mention, I've never quite put down this feeling, but her style reminds me of if you've ever seen like Greek style pottery that has like the stories on the vases. The line work reminds me of that. Like it has this really cool texturing effect to it, if this makes any sense. But I've never quite seen anything like that. So it's very captivating and lovely to look at. There's so many more, but I don't want to go on too long here. And like I said, all the links are going to be in the description for this video. I definitely recommend checking out all of them. Like just fantastic work. Give them some love, retweet some art. I hit my headphones. Oh no. Last but not least, a question from Gaku is, what is your most guilty pleasure game? This one's kind of hard for me to answer because like I kind of abandoned the concept of guilty pleasures a while ago, because like anything that makes you happy is like, I don't know, I just don't feel like feeling guilty about that. Like I definitely still have the like, oh, I know most people won't enjoy it type of thing, but like it's not guilty. But I also haven't played this one, but probably the closest thing would be the Danganronpa series. I mostly say it because there's definitely some pretty big issues and such scattered about the series and like portrayals of stuff, and it's like but honestly it does do quite a few things pretty well. Like it I knew it as like quote unquote the cringe series for a long time, and then I finally like watched a full let's play of it, and I was really surprised by how much was actually being done well, and I could see why so many people liked it. You know, like there definitely was problems in there and quote unquote cringeworthy stuff. But there's definitely a lot more done well than I think it has the reputation for, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so that was the last question of this month. As always, I thank anyone who asked a question, which leads us into the end screen, the patron end screen. So any of the characters you see here are patron NPCs that also appear in my comics as a reward for supporting me. You can check out links in the description to get to my Patreon, as well as any links that my patrons have wanted me to share, which is another perk of one of the higher tiers. If you want NPCs like this, you can always pledge to me, and even if you don't have an image for them, I do offer like a little quiz you can do that I can then think of ideas for it, or you can even just say like, design it for me, and I'll have a few designs and you can pick from one. There's also Discord benefits, which I hope to use more of by throwing some Mario parties in the future. I'm really excited for that. But yeah, no, I'm always thankful for anyone and everyone who pledges, or anyone and everyone who watches these too. It's always fun to answer these questions. Hopefully this gets out in time. That, or it's going to be a little bit late from when it should have been posted, but I just was so busy this month that I didn't quite have a good amount of time to really record this, if that makes any sense. Had a lot on my plate for comics and commissions and such, so wanted to make sure those got done first. But yeah, so I'm probably going to continue with the video format for all AMAs from this point onward, just because I find it a lot more fun and engaging personally. But yeah, we will see you next month. Bye!